Sling is out now. It's an album that demands attention. I think it's a major progression, songwriting-wise and recording-wise, for you. Does it feel that way to you?
I think so. Separate from the obvious musical changes and differences from Immunity, I do think that I have grown a lot since my last record. And I've tried to work really hard on everything for this record and try to show growth. I think that's the only thing I ever really want to show.
I heard a rumor, I'm going to go straight in, that you wrote 200 songs.
It seems like a lot. And I honestly, it could be up to that number. I landed on Reaper, which was the first song I wrote for Sling. And I wrote that July of 2020. And then there was probably around 30 or 35 demos for Sling after that moment. So
what happens to the other 138?
Some are being used for Shelly, my other band. I think I've sent probably 5 or 6 for Shelly, and then everything else is going in the trash.
I believe you.
You don't believe me?
No.
No, I believe myself.
So Reaper was the first song of this batch that you got. Is that the key to the record then?
I think so. I mean, it was the first song I wrote that ever talked about motherhood or talked about parenthood in a way that I wasn't thinking about it before. Reaper kind of came to fruition by talking to my mom about her role in my life. But I looked at my mom very differently because I was able to see all of the sacrifices that she had made for me. Also thinking a lot about how I know less about who my mom was before she was wife and before she was mom.
And the record is dedicated to your mum as well. I imagine that you, as a songwriter, can just run with that and say, well, let's go in this direction with it. Let's what happens when I put it in this light? Once you had Reaper in the bag and once you were having these conversations with your mum, were you able to just explore this new world?
Yeah, definitely. Because I wondered if I was also in the period of my life where this is pre-wife and before my role changes into something else. A lot of the record is about settling down and domesticity and wanting to be down the street from my sister and close to my mom and thinking about what work I need to put in for me to create a really proactive place to raise a kid or even just raise a dog in my case.
If COVID hadn't happened, would you even ever stumbled across these feelings?
Not for a long time. I also think I never would have gotten that amount of time with my mom as an adult if that wasn't the case.
What conclusions did you get from that? Were you in a happy place when the immunity cycle ended?
No. I don't think I was in a happy place for a long time surrounding music. Most of my career up until this point has been mentally pretty bleak. I've been trying to kind of adapt and contort myself in ways where I can cope with what's going on. I do think that I finally am at a point where I'm catching up to myself and I feel a lot happier. I'm creating healthy boundaries in my life and I'm doing things for myself instead of hoping that they'll happen sometime in the near future. I'm actually for the first time making things happen for myself, which feels really good, like getting a house and having a dog and making choices that aren't based on anybody else but how I feel has been really uplifting and has really helped my work as well.
Those thoughts and feelings have crept into the songs as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because even on Bambi, the opening track, I wonder whether that's the first lines on it are stepping inside a universe designed against my own beliefs. And I wonder whether that's about you being thrown into music aged 18.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's really about having no idea where to go from here.
Where are you at now? If you take Bambi as the metaphor, and everyone knows what happens in Bambi.
I don't think I'm Bambi anymore. I think I'm maybe on the happier side. Maybe I'm Thumper.
Did you feel alone in that sense? Because I feel like every artist at the start of their career, whether it's Taylor Swift or whether it's Nirvana, everybody probably has a sense of what is happening to me.
I didn't feel completely alone because I had Josh and Claude and my family and so many other people in my life who were there for me. I just think it was hard for me to find people who could empathize and not just sympathize.
There's so much to talk about with this record, whether it's the sounds, the instruments that you're playing, just the overall story of it. One of the things that I love about it is that, and it's really clever this actually, you're writing songs where the central character, as a listener, you don't like that character all of the time, because that central line in Blouse, the kind of end line in the chorus, if touch can make them hear, then touch me now. That's very much, I know where that person is coming from, but you don't want them to reach those levels of, sadness. And it's a really clever thing to be able to write a song where you can pull the listener in. And with that line in particular, I wonder did you get the idea for that line before Blouse came about? Or did it just pop up when you were writing the song?
I think it popped up either right before I wrote it or right as I was writing it. Because I wrote the guitar parts first and then I started to write it. But I did really love that line immediately. I felt like I could relate to in a way where my brain has definitely gone there. Have I really acted upon that? I don't know. I've definitely been taken advantage of at times. And it kind of did feel that way, where you kind of just say, well, it's a really dark place to be coming from. It's a really awful thing to say, but I can't sit here and say that I've never thought that, which I think is kind of a big theme with the record, is allowing these other emotions to cross your mind for the first time, whether it is parenthood or something so desperate like that, or something about settling down, or just mental health, or whatever topic I'm writing about. I feel like there are little moments of thoughts that maybe you wouldn't always say. Because there are always moments where you think about something, you're like, I'm not ready to think about that. I'm just not going to do it right now. But I couldn't really think of anything better to write about if I was going to make an album. I was probably going to write about the things I'm pushing as far away from me as possible.
It is desperation, isn't it? And you feel that as a listener. It's almost like reading a novel about somebody, that song. And actually, I do want to say that the lyrics on their own to this record, not that you should ever listen to them without the music, because they go together perfectly, but there are so many moments like that where you can kind of read each lyric individually. Sometimes the songs themselves can be so quiet and so musically led that the lyrics kind of take a back seat, and it's almost like the song instrumental parts are pulling the lyrics out of you in a way.
I think so. Well, the only difference between this record and any other thing I've really done is the fact that most of the songs on Sling started on piano, which I had never done before. But it was very surprising to me once I started writing on piano how different my lyrics were and how different the structure of the song was. It was almost like learning a new language.
I mean, there's a song like Joni, which is largely instrumental. It's basically 3-4 minutes of you playing piano.
Yeah.
Is Joni on that song?
Yes, she's credited for her snoring, and she hit the chimes with her tail.
And on time.
She's got her cut of publishing. Yeah.
She's getting royalties. I should say, actually, thanks for letting us invade your home to do this interview.
Yeah.
Is this where Claude and Josh also live as well?
Yeah, we all live here.
How does that dynamic work artistically? I presume it's quite fruitful.
It's so fun. I'm just very grateful for how long our friendship has lasted and how we all have kind of branched out into our own musical path. It would be really fun if we all played something together.
There are 2 songs particularly on this record, which is Blouse, obviously, and also Just for Today, which really remind me of Elliot. And the song that you put on your playlist is I Didn't Understand, and you called it the most heartbreaking song ever. How much have you actually listened to Elliott Smith and deconstructed and really worked out what he's done in the studio and how he's written those songs?
There was one thing that I had read about him. He used to record in a way where he would have one microphone and then guitar, and he would sing and play guitar at the same time into one microphone, and then he would do a perfect double of that same take. He had a doubled vocal and a double guitar. I recorded just for today that way.
The Fallon performance of Blouse actually reminded me of Elliot when he would go on TV as well. Was there a moment where you kind of caught yourself in the mirror or something beforehand, or just sort of, you know, took in the hugeness of the situation?
Definitely one of the most nerve-wracking moments of my life. And it didn't really help that backstage at Fallon, they have this huge mirror. I honestly didn't want to look at myself at all. Oh my gosh, I was really nervous, but...
So why'd you do it? But why'd you do it then? If you're really nervous, this is the key to you though. This is the key to you, I think, though, because you were really nervous, and you can see that on the performance. But the performance is immaculate; it's amazing.
Thank you.
And I know you, and you continuously do this, where you put yourself in situations where you're kind of out of your depth slightly.
I just think it's interesting, and I have been in so many uncomfortable situations, but I feel like I can harness an uncomfortable situation. But I had practiced Blouse so much that I just really hoped that I could do it. And I did feel like Blouse was the first song I wanted people to hear. It was a song I could perform. If my team wanted a TV performance, they were going to get one with this one. Just going out there by myself was something I needed to do. I hadn't done that before. I mean, the songs that I write are usually just guitar and I or whatever, but I remembered or realized that people, for the most part, have not seen me in a way where it's just the guitar and I. I realized that I hadn't really been presenting myself as someone who did that. And Blouse was a really good example of the song I wrote. It came from me. We recorded it. And this is it. That was important to me. It kind of like reclaimed something for myself that gave me a bit of confidence.
I was going to say my favorite track on the record is Zinnius.
Is it?
Is that Jack on the drums?
Yeah.
Were you nervous working with him, first of all? Because obviously he has a history now in terms of who he's worked with and what he's done over the past 5 years and then everything before that. It's pretty big.
Yes. Just intimidating, you know? When we first met, I didn't have anything I wanted to show him. And so when he brought up the idea of working on a record, I pretty much said no. I'm like not ready. But we became such good friends. And he honestly turned into like a brother to me. I wouldn't have it any other way. I feel like this record turned into exactly what I always wanted it to be. But once I had Reaper, I called him back and I was like, I might have something that you like. Do you want to try again? And he was like, yeah. So then we booked time to go up to Lair. I think he's one of the funniest people I've ever met. And I've never had an older brother, but I am 99% sure that this is what it feels like.
So these 12 really fit together. And you can hear that actually in the record, the way it flows and even the kind of the cadence and the track listing. I don't know, there are certain tracks where they almost fade out and then the next one starts and it could be the same song if it was not for the track changing. Is there a correlation between Management, which is the last song, and Bambi, which is the first song? Is there a kind of start of album, end of album in terms of the story that you're telling?
Both of them are about being in music. I always knew Bambi would be the first song and I always knew Management would be the last song, and I don't know why. But I do think that all of this talk about domesticity and wanting a house and thinking about kids and everything that kind of cements me in a place, which is usually really scary, but one of the biggest things that is an obstacle for me to accomplish some of these things is, well, when does touring end? And when am I going to know my own limit? When am I going to be able to stop? Do I have a choice to kind of pump the brakes when I'm done? Or am I just going to kind of drain myself to a point where I'm just constantly working to a point where I don't love music anymore? I guess when you're writing a record, it's hard to remember where it even began or where it will end. I never want to feel completely tied to the fact that I'm only a musician. I would like to learn more about myself as a human. And music has been my dream my whole life. So it is really odd hearing all of this come out of my mouth, but I am second guessing it a little bit. In a way where I have no regrets. I'm just thinking about what's next. Maybe going to be a teacher or something, or taking a break for 5 years or 6 years and coming back and doing it again, you know? I don't know, but I'm just trying to prioritize my home life.
It's all a learning curve. And this record is so open. It's tough to know, well, where could you go next?
Maybe 5 years is too little. Maybe the people want more. They need 10 years off.
Nah, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that whatever happens, if you take an elongated amount of time off, people will miss you because these two records are fantastic. Sling in particular is, you know, artistic brilliance over 12 tracks. So well done.
Thank you.